Hello everyone, welcome to myself, Max McGillivray from Beanstalk. Mark, say hello to everyone. Amy, say hello to everyone.
Hello everyone.
Hi everyone.
We're just going live with our Healthy and Sustainable Food Group July broadcast, and it's currently midday in the UK, and we've got a smattering of weather everywhere. Where I am in Bury St Edmunds, we just had a biblical rainstorm, so I don't think our farmers are going to be very, very happy. Come on, Mark, we've got to do this because we're British. What's the weather like with you, please, Mark?
It's a lovely sunny morning, and I'm optimistic for the rest of July.
Excellent.
Particularly with a holiday planned. So.
And whereabouts are you based, Mark?
I'm based in the Malvern Hills on the Herefordshire, Worcestershire borders.
Beautiful. And Amy, come on, show off as you were in the green room. What lovely country are you in that we would all love to be in today?
I am currently in Athens in Greece, and we've just finished a heat wave, and now we're at 31 degrees Celsius.
Wow. Okay. And as you said in the green room, it's a bit too hot to go out during the heat of the midday sun, is it?
For me, yeah. I'm doing the classic British style and complaining if it rains, complaining if it's too hot.
Oh, bless. Excellent. So come on. Let's get on with this. So just for the people, especially on the podcast, we really want to set the scene because apart from yourselves, we've got two amazing experts in that we're really looking forward to having a deep dive conversation with. But just to give a bit more of a background as to the Healthy and Sustainable Food Group, three key industry professionals came together to create the group, and they are Barbara Bray, MBE, Director of Aleo Solutions, Mark Driscoll, Director of Tasting the Future, Jacqui Green, Director of Viridis Associates, and it's even better now because we've got Amy Colford, who's a very well-known public health nutritionist on board. And we, Beanstalk, are very proud to host a series of monthly or sometimes bi-monthly broadcasts for the group. And what we wanted to do this month is there's so much talk about agricultural waste, the hierarchy of it, and also the circular economy. So we've mashed this all together to create this broadcast today titled The Hierarchy of Agricultural Waste in a Circular Economy. And joining us is going to be the amazing Jenny Costa, who's the founder and CEO of Rubies in the Rubble. And we've also got Martin Baumann, Senior Policy and Campaigns Manager for Feedback Global. But before we get going with that, Mark, what are you seeing? We are hopefully coming out of the pandemic in the UK perspective. I didn't tell you in the green room, but we've just picked up that a soft fruit producer in the UK is having to turn away from picking 400 tons of soft fruit because they can't get the labour on site. To me, it does feel like we've got to get through a number of speed bumps before things get better. What's your take on where we are at the moment, please, Mark?
Yeah, it's been a really challenging environment, particularly for agricultural producers in the fresh produce sector. And absolutely, there are signs that over the last 12 months, there has been more waste on farm, either because that produce hasn't been able to get to market quickly enough, or through a lack of labour in terms of harvesting that. And, you know, in the UK, we produce around 4 million tons of waste, you know, so it's 7% of all food harvested in the UK, and that has a significant impact in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, and obviously at the same time, some 8 million people, according to the Food Foundation, you know, are struggling to afford to eat. So that has significant consequences, not just in the UK, but globally. Globally, 1/3 of all food produced is wasted. So globally, 900 million tons of food waste, either at production or through to consumption.
And guys, Amy, we've got this odd peculiarity. 3 weeks ago, we went live with the broadcast with Tim O'Malley, who's CEO of Nationwide Produce, a £150 million turnover produce company, stating that they can't get wheels under the produce to get it to wholesale food service and supermarket. The chap from the RHA was just saying how bad the problem is, that this we're down 70,000 lorry drivers in the UK. And Amy, I don't know if you saw it in Greece and the UK, the BBC was stating that Haribo's, the sweets, aren't being able to be delivered to store. And we've got produce being wasted, and we're talking about sweets not being delivered. And the two weeks ago, one of the, I forgot the lady, but there's a lady. She was a Conservative MP, and when she failed again in the last elections, she got placed into the House of Lords. She was claiming that the food sector is crying wolf over the issues of labour and lack of transportation. Amy, what do you think? It would seem to be in a mad world at the moment, especially not helped by Brexit.
I hadn't heard about that actually, with the Haribo's in Greece. And as a public health nutritionist, I probably shouldn't be promoting that people eat more sweets. But I think, yeah, this can be an issue with many different types of foods. And I've certainly seen here with the hot weather, we have a lot of local markets selling Greek produce. And quite often you see that some of the produce is going bad, it's spoiling, and I guess that would be more of an issue on the farms and in transport as well at the moment.
Yeah, Mark, I'm interested to see what you think. It just feels like a perfect storm at the moment with the pandemic, with Brexit. You couldn't make up those connotations. Mark, are you positive that there will be a solution, especially to the likes of agricultural waste, as we get through the pandemic and through the breakfast connotations?
I'm always optimistic, Max. You know, I wouldn't be working in food sustainability if I wasn't. I think, you know, food waste is a real challenge. You know, food waste is at the heart of the global sustainable development goals. There's a commitment in those sustainable development goals to halve food waste by 2030. We have been making small but limited progress in the UK over the last few years. Maybe the last 12 months, maybe a little bit of a blip in that. But there is, you know, a long way still to go. I think government still has to step up to the plate a little bit more, to excuse the pun, to incentivize better behaviors right across kind of gate to plate to reduce the amount of waste created. There's a lot of innovation out there. We have some great networks. We have the Food Surplus Network, which helps small businesses and farmers to address food waste. Innovative Farmers is a great network. It's an alliance of non-profit linking farmers with researchers to establish the kind of causes of food waste and loss on farms. So there is a lot of innovation, and we need to push, you know, the interventions much more up the waste hierarchy. So, you know, we need to start with source reduction, stop food being generated, and then, you know, anything that is generated needs to be kind of put back into the food system, fed to animals. We can't, you know, put this to landfill.
We did an amazing broadcast about 4 or 5 months ago with South Africa, and we had a great lady who's one of the main buyers for Pick and Pay in South Africa, and she used this very emotive phrase, which has actually been criticised in the UK because a politician stole it, and her expression was "never waste a crisis." And although it might feel a bit doom and gloom in certain aspects at the moment, we're all going to learn from this, and there's going to be some fantastic learnings from that. Amy, Mark, on that side, shall we learn from our experts that you've managed to garner in? So that basis, Jenny, Martin, can you join us? Because as nice as it is hearing from Amy and Mark, we also want to hear from yourselves. So Martin, if it's okay, we'll do ladies first. Jenny, who are you? Tell the world who you are, please.
Thank you. I am Jenny, the founder of Rubies in the Rubble. I started Rubies in the Rubble in 2012 off the back of researching food waste. Food waste became a personal passion. I was brought up on a farm and always had food production close to my heart, and then went off to the city, started working, and at the age of about 25, started researching food waste and just realizing I want to make a brand that raises awareness and starts talking about it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jenny. And we're going to come back to Jenny and do a bit more of a deep dive interview because she's got such an interesting and eclectic background, as has Martin. Martin, who are you, please?
Hi, I'm Martin. So I work at a group called Feedback. I've spent the best part of a decade campaigning on food waste in various
Wow.
ways. I worked for 5 years at the Gleaning Network, where we took volunteers down to farms to harvest their surplus, sort of wonky fruit and vegetables, etc., and get those to charities. But I also work in sort of food waste campaigning and trying to hold supermarkets and governments to account for food
Well
waste,
done.
try to get some regulation.
Fantastic. Mark, Amy, well done. Aren't they brilliant? Can everyone just turn off their videos apart from Jenny? And Jenny, let's you and I have a catch up. And Jenny, if it's okay, I just want to paraphrase some of your background, especially for the people on the podcast, because we do find that people like yourselves are sometimes a little bit modest, and we want to really show off who you are, what your background is, for a couple of specific reasons. So, as you say, you're founder and CEO of Rubies in the Rubble. You graduated with an MA in Mathematics and Economics in 2008 before working in this city for 2 years. And you've always had your heart for sustainability and good food, and launched Rubies in the Rubble in 2011. And you're now into ketchup, mayos, with the aim of having an even bigger impact with more mainstream everyday products. We have a lot of graduates dialed into this, Jenny. So I just want them to be aware of what you've achieved. You've been named as a female entrepreneur to watch 2018 Global Shaper World Economic Forum, Everline Future Business Awards 2016, Real Business Disruptors Food Star 2015, Honorary Master at the Open University of London 2015, Investec Food and Drink Award Entrepreneur 2014, Mary Claire Women at the Top 2014, Good Housekeeping Food Hero. Wow, Jenny, you could have gone in to do anything, as you sort of did when you went into the city. Just give us a bit more. What was the magic that created you to go down this route to do good when you could have actually gone off into another direction? You would have made a great solicitor. Why have you gone down this particular route? Why are you looking to make a difference? Tell us.
You are very kind, Max. I think people are best or always excel when they do something that they're passionate about. I think that, you know, everybody, whenever you've got a passion for something, you're gonna go 110% on something. And I'm so passionate around this need to value food again. We've got a planet that can feed its people, but yet we're not doing that. We're wasting a third of what we produce. Agriculture is the biggest single largest contributor that we as humans have on our planet and on global warming, and we've got plans to double our food supply chain, but yet we're wasting a third of it, and and yet so many people are going without. And I feel like there needs to be awareness on this piece, and there's got to be change that happens.
Okay, and what we've picked up over the last year, be interested to hear your views. We're seeing a lot more of the younger generation, when they're making the university or their apprenticeship choices, they want to go down this particular route because they actually want to make a change. They want to do good. Are you seeing that within your network as well?
I think it's such an exciting time for businesses with purpose. Every child that's born sort of from now on they have new aspirations for either buying into brands that do good and do better. We live in a capitalist society. Like, businesses have to be responsible for making change around their community. And I love seeing that change in the interest in people of our economy should be helping its people and helping our planet as well, working together.
And we've talked about it previously on the Healthy Sustainable Foods broadcast. We're seeing the likes of Legal in General, one of the larger pension investment companies in the UK, on a diversification piece, that they've actually told the major 100 top companies that they invest in that if those companies don't have a diversified board by the end of 2022, they'll withdraw funding. And so we're seeing that societal change happening at a senior level. Are there other aspects that you think could be done, such as that, to encourage not only the younger generation coming through, but those of middle age or slightly older, to now make fundamental choices to actually change their buying habits for the good? What would your recommendation be on that front, please?
I think there's so many businesses that sustainability especially has a business case to it. I mean, Unilever, for example, they're changing huge, or sustainability is becoming the heart of everything that they do, because they see the long-term benefit, and there is change to sustainability to just businesses that do good. I something
Jenny, can I just stop you there, because I don't know if it's you or me, but we seem to have a little bit break of the of the internet. So Jenny, if you just stay there. Martin, can you pop in, please? I love it when this happens. And BT, so Martin, let's test you. How's your internet? I think we've lost Jenny in Scotland. Oh,
fingers crossed. I'm happy to tag team in and out. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Martin, you're fantastic. Yeah, no, Jenny's just frozen in Scotland for a little bit. So Martin, we're gonna get deputise yourself. Are you seeing the same thing, Martin? That the younger generation is looking to get more involved and do more good. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been engaging young people through our gleaning network, getting people out into the fields and sort of trying to help build opportunities to get involved in the food sector, which is super important. So what we've seen is that when people come out onto the farm and see that just whole fields of food that were going to be ploughed back in, the kind of gut feeling that they get is just so visceral, and that makes people feel both more connected with their food system through getting stuck in and wading through the mud to harvest some cabbages, but also one hungry for systemic change to stop that food waste happening in the first place.
Yeah, and hence this example I gave earlier that we just literally picked up this morning, that there's a major soft fruit grower in the UK that's having to let 400 tons of soft fruit rot because they don't have the labour to pick it. So and that's scandalous. In fact, I don't understand why that's not getting picked up by the mainstream media. But Martin, let's just do a deep dive with yourself, especially for those people on the on the podcast. So you're Senior Policy and Campaigns Manager for Feedback Global, and you've worked in policy and campaigns for a variety of feedback projects focus on food waste, meat, anaerobic digestion, and sustainable animal feed. You were previously Feedback's Pig Idea Policy Officer and Stakeholder Coordinator from 2018 to 19, and the coordinator for Feedback's Gleaning Network, as he just mentioned, between 2011 2017. And in 2016, he gave a TEDx talk on gleaning. Everyone, if you haven't seen it, you've got to see it. It is fantastic, and we'll link that back on the post so you can see. You've also worked for This Is Rubbish on the EU food waste campaign, and previously worked on the Stop the Rot campaign. You've also founded a chapter of Food Not Bombs in Southeast London. Martin, a very similar question to the one that I asked Jenny. Did you not ever want to become a solicitor?
No, it's the short answer. I guess I had a bit of a weird way into this. So I actually was working at a bookshop and ironically found a copy of Tristram Stewart's iconic book about food waste, founder of Feedback. In fact, ironically about to be thrown away. It was in the damaged stock section of the bookshop. So I was working there at the time and they gave the damaged stock to us for free. So I just read that and was stunned by, similarly to Jenny, the injustice of having all of this food going to waste, all the resources that go into that, all the emissions, but also the huge number of hungry people. So I just wanted to do something about it. It seemed super important to achieve.
And just talk to us about Feedback Global. How's it constructed? How many in the team? What's your reach? Tell us all about it, please.
Yeah, sure. So we've been going for about a decade. We actually so as I say, we were founded by Tristram Stewart, and we started off doing Feeding the 5,000 events where we feed 5,000 people in Trafalgar Square using food that was wasted to get food waste on the agenda. But since then, we've gone on to do all sorts of stuff. So like the Gleaning Network, where we're taking all these volunteers out to farms to harvest their leftovers. The Pig Idea campaign you mentioned, we're campaigning to reform the law to enable more types of food waste to be fed to animals like pigs and chickens once it's been safely treated. And so we worked on a variety of EU-funded research on that, and there are now pilot studies happening in the Netherlands to figure out how to do that safely. And currently we're working on food waste regulation. So we're trying to make sure there's a consultation coming up to make sure that farm food waste is measured. perhaps we can come onto this in a bit, but there's no data to speak of globally on how much food is wasted on farms, and we think that's a scandal, and we need to rectify that, apart from anything else, to help farmers who are currently suffering in silence with this problem.
Yeah, but and you talked earlier about the likes of the wonky veg. With our background within fresh produce, we're aware of so much product that gets wasted because it is not straight or is slightly the wrong color, when it was just. Again, it's scandalous. And Martin, are you also working up the food supply chain? Because there's a statistic that we always roll out that 1.2 million bananas are thrown away in the UK every day. So there's a lot of waste that happens in the home. Are you looking to assist on that aspect as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so what we usually highlight is what we have is a slight problem at the moment where food that's in businesses gets talked about as food loss, and this makes it sound as if it's lost down the back of the sofa or something. It sounds unintentional, whereas we talk about food waste that's wasted by consumers as if it's an individual personality failing. So what we try to say is actually, when you stand back and look at the system, is often there are power relations at play, and everyone is structured to a large degree by supermarkets. So we see on farms that often they're at the mercy of supermarket policy, order cancellations, these wonky veg rejections, but also on the flip side of that, consumers, there's a big opportunity. Consumers act within an environment that's significantly shaped by supermarkets. So measures like changing best before dates, making sure there's a variety of portion sizes sold, all of these changes in retailer policy could help on both sides.
Well, and everyone is looking to assist, aren't they? You look at the Veg Power campaign, which is underway at the moment, and that's gained £4 million worth of free TV advertising and a number of celebrities just to try and educate kids as to why it's so great to eat veg. 6 out of 10 kids don't know where veg comes from, but it does feel, Martin, that the zeitgeist moment is with us now. That we can keep having people like yourself and these other groups and these other campaigns all collaborating, singing, shouting, being noisy with a single voice. It can make a difference. Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hopeful so. It feels like there's a real sea change at the moment. As I say, we've got this opportunity. The government are talking about beginning to measure food waste. Now, as I say, not a single country in the world currently has data on how much food is wasted on farms. Wow. And that means farmers are suffering in silence with all these problems that we talked about, bearing the costs and risk of huge amounts of waste. So what we want to happen is for everyone to come together and beginning to see this, like NGOs, food enterprises, the public, all coming together. We want to know how much food is wasted so we can start to tackle this problem together. And I'm really hopeful that that can start happening.
Yeah, and Martin, before we get Jenny back in, because I've sent her 50p for the meter, so hopefully her internet will start up again. How can we help? How can the likes of Amy, Mark, and our collective network help you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in the immediate term, what we're trying to do is build support for mandatory food waste reporting, which would basically mean that businesses over a certain size have to start measuring and publicly reporting on their food waste. And we want to see this happen in the farming sector. We think that would be a great idea because it would help farmers see how much food they're wasting, but also build the case for changing retailer policy so they can get more of their food to market. So Fantastic. What we'd love to do is we'd love to hear from people who'd like to come together and back our calls for that mandatory food waste reporting so that we can take that case to the government and make sure that food waste on farms is measured.
Excellent. I'm sure Amy and Mark will be okay with this. We might steal you for another broadcast series that we run with a very big group called British Growers, and they represent 28 different industry groups of fruit and vegetable production in the UK, and they're desperately keen to find ways to promote their produce and also to minimize waste. So Martin, we'll have a conversation about that another time. Martin, stay there. We're just going to see if Jenny's put the 50p in the meter. Jenny, are you going to come back in? Oh, here she comes. This is exciting. Back from sunny Scotland. She's back in. Woo!
Sorry, classic Scot sort of attitude.
Do Do not worry, we are totally used to it. But before we went into go into our Q&A, Jenny, I wanted you to show off about your business. Martin, do you want to just turn off your video now that we've got Jenny back in, and you've been our fantastic football substitute, for the want of a better expression. Jenny, just tell us about Rubies in the Rubble. How can we purchase from you? Where are you getting your raw ingredients? What's the plans for the future? Tell us all about your business, please.
Awesome. Well, as Martin was sort of talking about with the waste on the farm, we work direct with farmers that have surplus, often wrong shape, size, color, but it can just be that they don't have the long enough shelf life to go on a supermarket shelf sitting somebody else's cupboard. So we work direct with the farmers, and we'll take surplus by the pallet. Hopefully, I saw myself freezing again, but hopefully I'm still here.
No, you're fine.
And we turn it into the beauty of a condiment, I suppose, is it's the natural way of preserving something. So we will turn it into a chutney, a relish, ketchup, and we also have a mayonnaise range.
Excellent. And it's with these broadcast series that we've been doing, we've met so many women who've been able to be so innovative with this food waste area. We've met a lovely lady from Kenya called Alice, who has created a business that's making avocado oil out of waste avocados. So when you're harvesting avocados, there's a rough percentage of 5 to 10% that can't be processed, can't be sent to the UK and Europe, because they're fine, but cosmetically there might be a bit blemished or a bit ugly, so they're not coming over. And they would just been going into landfill. And she created a business around creating avocado oil from that product. And she now employs 150 people, and the bulk of them are women. And they're in a position now where they've managed to make those workers financially secure, and she's desperately trying to find more market avenues in the UK. So coming back to yourself, it's interesting how you have created this success. Where is your, if it's okay to ask, where is your business now, and where are you looking to take it in the future, please?
Great. So pre-COVID, 80% of our business was focused on restaurants and pub chains. We sell our ketchup actually as a closed loop solution. So we sell it in bulk to a restaurant. Brilliant. And they refill bottles on the table. And then since COVID, we've launched in Morrison's, in Waitrose, wow. Ocado. But it's interesting, I think you saying, or touching on that point of finding solutions to why things are wasted. And often with food supply chain, it's just thinking differently. It's manufacturers are often creating a waste, or there's waste within the supply chain. Yeah. And yet it's got perfect value. And it's just sort of then getting creative and thinking about solutions or how we can utilize that to make sure that it keeps in the food supply chain.
Well done, because there's a much used expression that so much profitability is held up within the supply chain, and some of that a significant amount of that's potentially waste. So if you can look to repurpose that waste, because it's not waste, and I love that model that you've managed to, here comes that word, pivot, that you've managed to get into the retail space. So presumably you're very excited about the future, that if you can hold on to that retail space as well as going back into food services, that rapidly picks up, you're going to have a double whammy, are you not?
Yeah, it feels like a very exciting time for the brand, especially our ketchup and our mayonnaises are really growing. We're getting them into lots of different places, and raising awareness. The more we sell, the bigger impact we have, the more farmers we can work with. It does feel an extremely exciting time.
Fantastic, Jenny. Before we bring everyone back in, how can myself, Amy, Mark, and our collective networks, how can we help you? How can we help Rubies in the Rubble?
Well, I suppose one obvious thing is look out for us, find us on the shelf, share us with friends. Another thing though, one thing that I'm very passionate about is changing consumers' points of view and thoughts around food waste, because I think we often really do focus on a lot of the businesses within that, but we need to as well prevent food waste in our own homes, and that attitude change of how we see food and valuing food. And it's often as well, hearing the story of the avocado stones, it's seeing food in a different way, rather than it being a waste of one part, somebody's business, but thinking like there's value to that. It's amazing produce. Let's make sure that we never let it go to waste.
So do you envisage in the future larger food businesses will have this sort of ecosystem around them, that all products that go in that they process and they then sell out, great. But anything that was deemed as waste, there will be a collective of rubies in the rubble, all plugged into that ecosystem, taking that excess product out and repurposing it. Is that? I'm sort of slightly leading the witness, but would that be your vision? Would that be your dream?
Yeah, I think that's the need. It's needed. I mean, unless if we are going to tackle food waste, we need to be thinking holistically and differently about where food is wasted and what we can do with it, because sometimes it's wasted in the wrong place at the wrong time. Food's perishable. We need to value it at that stage and make something from that.
Well done. Can everyone come back in, please? Mark, question to you. Do you think that's Mark, do you think that's realistic, what Jenny and I are proposing, to have larger food companies to be able to have that ecosystem hanging off them, that all excess produce, I'm desperately trying to avoid this word waste, all excess produce is repurposed? Do you think that's actually practical, Mark?
Yes, I do. If the incentives are put in place, I think the right incentives have got to be put in place to support businesses to do that. But in a way, you know, again, the first step has to be to stop that in the first place. And if waste is inevitable, then this concept of valorization, so adding value to the waste that's produced and using those valuable nutrients to feed people, has got to be the kind of key priority here, in my view.
Amy, what do you think, please?
I think it's amazing what Jenny and Martin are both doing. And I think I used to work as a regulator for the food industry for the Environment Agency. And that was mainly focusing on food factories, and this mandatory reporting of all kinds of waste is necessary for bigger businesses that have environmental permits, but that's not the case for smaller farms. And I can see where it could be a little bit more difficult for farmers to do that kind of thing, because it takes resources, it needs skill. So I think if we're going to implement this, we need to make sure that the farmers have the support that they need, because it's really important that we get this information. And also, I think finding a way to connect entrepreneurs like Jenny with farmers and companies that have excess waste streams, surplus food. I think that's really important as well, because sometimes it's just that companies or farmers don't know what their options are when it comes to reusing the food, and it's in their interest financially and ethically to do it, but they might just not know how. So some kind of platform to be able to connect people with ideas to the industry, I think would be a really good thing to do.
Well said, Amy. 2 weeks ago, there was a UK event called Groundswell, aimed at regenerative agriculture. And the more and more farmers I am meeting of a younger generation and a mature generation know that the most valuable resource that we've got in some respects is soil, and by crikey, we've got to look after it, because if we don't look after it, we won't be able to grow food. So there's definitely that momentum within the farming community to go down this regenerative agriculture. Money, everyone. There's a let's just talk about the elephant in the room, that a number of these growers are getting ridiculously small margins from the retailers. There's been no decent food inflation for years. The retailers tend to use fresh produce, fresh food as a loss leader to get people in to buy that, and then to go further in the store to buy the branded products or the £12 bottle of wine. That's not helping the growers. The growers are of a view that the retailers need to pay them more margin, but the retailers are frightened of breaking cover and increasing the cost of the produce, because they think that's going to scare off the shoppers. And also there's an argument there as to whether they'd actually give any compensation back to the growers. How do we get around this one, that the growers need more money to go down the exercise of regenerative agriculture and looking at food waste? Go on, Jenny. I know it's a horny one, but what do you think?
Oh, it's a very difficult one. I mean, in an ideal time, sometimes when you look at the food system, the fact that we've got supermarkets and we've become so far removed from our food supply, and we've scaled it to such a huge degree that only the big farmers survive, is sometimes when you think, when you look at the problem as a whole, we could, if you were buying locally and going back to your farmers markets and things, which is a real idealistic point of view, but that's one sort of angle to it. And the other angle, I sort of think there is a challenge that we are wasting a lot in our own homes, and that food is not valued very much. And actually, if you put the true value of food up, then would people value what they've got?
Yeah.
See meat as something that they have once or twice, and get back into tin cans, eat fresh fruit as a treat as well. But really sort of is food really priced at the right value?
Yeah. Well said. Martin, come on. What's your answer to this one? Growers want more money. Retailers don't want to give them more money. The consumer doesn't want to pay more money. What's the answer?
It's a really important point, actually. I think that often gets overlooked, that one of the root problems of food waste on farms is that farmers often are operating on such slim margins that we've encountered farmers who are often, when the price dips too low, particularly when there's a glut, will have to just plow their food back in because they literally will lose money harvesting it. So you're exactly right that one of the main ways that we can reduce food waste on farms is we need to boost the proportion of the value of the food that's getting to the farmer. And I think there we need to see a combination of things like Jenny talked about. Sort of a really encouraging thing with COVID is being seen more direct farmer to consumer box schemes. I think that's fantastic. But within the main food system, we need to see the remit of the Groceries Code Adjudicator extended to protect suppliers from unfair trading practices. And we need to see, things like more cooperatives to give smaller farmers more bargaining power with retailers within the main food system as well.
Yeah, Martin, well said. And this has been going on for years. I remember in the late 90s, I was renting a house down in Chichester when I was starting my career. Farmer behind had 25 acres of celery. The market went against him and he had to let it rot. Unfortunately, I was right on the back of that field. I can't eat celery now because I just remember that lingering smell. I'm sure he won't mind. There's a contact of ours called Andrew Johnson, who's previously was a big indoor salad grower, and he was amazed. So he knows the whole intricacies of dealing with retailers. He was amazed when he did a tour around Texas a couple of years ago as to how well the growers protect their margins, and they just have an expression out there: Texas tough. If the retailer isn't going to buy it, they're not going to sell it. And here in the UK, there's always been this race to the bottom on pricing, and you get this ludicrous situation of similar produce companies undercutting each other just to get volume in, because they've got the big overheads, but they're working on sub 2%, sub 1% margins. So it sounds like there needs to be a whole rethinking in the UK, because the likes of America has restructured themselves. Amy, am I just being naive, or do you think we can see some change on that side? Is money going to, if more money comes through the food system, is that going to help to nullify food waste, do you think, Amy?
Well, I think the prices going up is probably inevitable. We can either do it proactively and enable farmers to adopt new practices and things like that, or we can wait until there becomes an ecological crisis and food demand is higher and we can't meet it and the food prices go up anyway. And I think it's better if we take the more proactive approach and invest in a more sustainable food system now, rather than wait until the crisis point.
Yeah. Well, Amy, well said. Mark, thoughts?
So I don't think money's the only solution. I think food waste is a symptom, in a way, of a kind of broken food system. And like any kind of solution, I don't think there's ever any silver bullet with the issue of food waste. And there's a variety of pull and push mechanisms that are required. I think Jenny's point earlier around valuing food is really, really important. And I think I've mentioned this in previous broadcasts, that increasingly urbanized societies now globally, 50% of us live within towns or cities. We've become quite disconnected from the growing, cooking, preparation of food. Food needs to be bedded into our educational system from preschool, from nursery through to primary, teaching kids how to cook, prepare food, grow food, and because that shapes our own values and therefore ultimately our buying behaviors. If we don't really appreciate the value of food, the effort that's gone into food, the impacts of food from an early stage, then we're not going to be prepared to pay the true cost for healthy foods, all the way through to, you know, in a way, it's a kind of symptom of what I would call a very productivist food system. In a way, subsidies and kind of economic incentives reward food waste. We have to level that kind of playing field, support more shorter value chains, you know, connect consumer more directly with producer. There've been signs of that through COVID. You know, the localization agenda is really, really important all the way through, I think, to, you know, there's some really challenging issues around power and dynamics and that champagne hourglass where retailers, you know, do control and have significant power. So that relationship between growers and retailers is important, as Martin has said, through the Groceries Code Adjudicator, etc., etc.
And well done. Martin, just thank you for mentioning the Grocery Code Adjudicator. We run another broadcast with women in food and farming, and that's I was going to say honoured, hosted by Christine Taken, CBE, who was the previous Grocery Code Adjudicator. And when we were live with them on earlier this week, and I asked her at the intro, what's your view of Morrison's? And so if people aren't aware or dialing in the UK, Morrison's is our third, fourth largest retailer. And currently there's a bidding frenzy for them to be bought out. And Christine had dealt heavily with Morrison's as her in her role as Grocery Code Adjudicator, and her view was that she's very worried because of this bidding war, and it's potentially going to go over 10 billion sterling for it to be bought. What's going to happen? These American investors are then just going to strip the thing out. And so there is a speculation, not by her, but by other people that we're talking to, that Morrison's won't exist in 4 or 5 years' time because it will have just been asset stripped. What's going to happen in the short term if there's little old us saying, can our farmers have a little bit more money? And the American investors out of Wall Street with the pinstripe suits and the Maybach cars who are just looking at dollar signs, they're not going to capitulate. And it just feels, I don't know, it just feels like we've got good and bad. We got these investors that just want to, am I going to say the word, just rape these businesses of anything that they can get. Well, there's people like yourselves who are looking to do good within the food system. Jenny, help me. What's the solution? How can we create this good energy to create good and stop these bad investors doing bad things?
It's a very hard one to challenge, and there's part of me that it's got to be more noise and more voice coming from the consumer as well, of the demand of what people are expecting and what they're looking for. And there is a lot of power in the way that we consume. And I think this next generation, I get very excited about the shift of sort of using your money as almost a vote for the future that you want to live in. And you've got to buy into the things that you believe in. And that supporting businesses that are doing good is a sign of what you want. You want to be to the life that you want to be living. And I think the more consumers can live out what their values and bridge that gap between their sort of their desired values and actually what they do in practice, the more we can make change and we can see the change that we want to do.
Yeah. Martha, do you think we can do good? Do you think we can conquer evil?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can. I think one thing we need to do is fundamentally we need to address the power that supermarkets have in the supply chain. I mean, the things you're talking about all come back to this issue. One of the things that we tried to do recently to try and tackle this problem is we collaborated with the Lord of Caithness to table an amendment to the Environment Bill, basically calling on the government to introduce an extended producer responsibility for food waste for supermarkets. And this would basically charge them a levy based on the amount of food waste in UK supply chains, and then that money would be that would give supermarkets an internalized incentive to reduce food waste in their suppliers. And I think we need to see things like this. You know, there's examples like whole crop purchasing where supermarkets take on the costs and risks of food waste rather than leaving that all to the producer. So I think we need to see institutionally through regulation the cost and risks of that farmers are currently taking on internalized within supermarkets, as otherwise it won't become their problem and they'll carry on sort of offloading risks onto their suppliers.
Martin, what said, and I've just one of my contacts has just WhatsApped me to totally agree with you, but saying, isn't there a problem, Martin, that politics is so slow? Look how long it took for the sugar tax to come in. How can we speed up politicians? Go on,
well,
Martin.
Yeah, sure. Well, one of the ways we're trying to do that is raise lots of pressure from the industry, you know, saying we want this. You know, one of the concerns that I'm sure politicians will have about this is, do the industry want this? If we can build enough of a voice from growers themselves saying we want to measure the food waste that's on our farms,
excellent,
and then change policy, then we create the noise to create that change. So we'd love people to join us in that.
Amy, what do you think to that? Looking to encourage growers to not trying to overcomplicate it, but to have a scheme where they can where they can gauge their own waste, and that can be fed up the system. Amy, do you think that's a good solution?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always say knowledge is power, and I think it was a few months ago that we had Caroline from the Carbon Trust on, and she was talking about how having the primary data is the most important thing when it comes to developing solutions. So I think, yeah, having that data, knowing what types of food and quantities are being wasted and where, then you can really start to dig into why and find out the solution. So yeah, I think it's a great thing if farmers are supporting it as well. Yeah, we should go for it.
Amy, well done. Mark, have we not seen this before? Are we just reinventing the wheel, or potentially could it work this time?
I think it can work, and I would absolutely agree. We've got to measure, you know, what matters, and we've got to start with measurements, and the whole waste agenda fits in with the whole agenda of moving towards more healthy and nutritious foods. You know, we've underinvested in UK horticulture for years and years. We want to produce more fresh produce in the UK, and government again has a responsibility to do that, to encourage a greater proportion of fresh produce as part of our diets, and UK is well placed to do that. At the moment, there's no incentive for growers to do that, so much more support needs to occur.
And where I get frustrated, we have the likes of our UK Prime Minister who got COVID and survived, who, when he came out, said, we're a nation of fatties. I am going to personally make sure that we become a fit nation, so we're not a burden on the NHS. But then we've got the likes of the free trade selling that bloody rubbish at what was that? £2. I haven't drunk it. I hope it's right. £2.50, and the margin that they're making, and the advert. And then we got our growers who are growing. Let's be emotional about it. Growing sunshine, growing fantastic fresh produce that does good for us and our kids. And they're not making. We got some brassica growers who potentially are going to pull away from growing this summer because they can't get enough labour. They can't get enough lorries. And we got this muck sponsoring sportsmen for million. Again, I'm probably being a bit over emotional about it. We need more. It feels like we need more Jennies and more Martins to create that societal change, to get consumers more aware and to support the growers. Mark, help me with this one.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I'm just noticing a question that's just come up on chat, actually. We do have part 2 of the National Food Strategy, which is due, I believe, to be announced next week. So it will be really interesting to see the kind of recommendations that are coming out of the National Food Strategy. We know there's going to be more emphasis, fingers crossed, on healthy, sustainable diets. Hopefully waste and tackling waste will be a big part of that National Food Strategy too.
Yeah, well done. I completely forgot. I'd had some leaks from it this morning. I won't quote them back because we don't know whether they're genuine or not. Mark, can you just highlight what that the National Food Strategy is for those that are not aware, or those overseas that might like to have an understanding, please?
So this is being Henry Dimbleby is one of the kind of directors of DEFRA. He's been tasked a couple of years ago now with producing a national food strategy. It's gone through quite an extensive consultative process So, it's had lots of engagement, really, really positive participatory process in gathering the evidence. We had a national food strategy part 1 that was published towards the end of last year, dealing with kind of food poverty. It hit the kind of news headlines in terms of free school meals and the links with Marcus Rashford. Yeah. Part 2 is the most significant part, because it's really dealing and linking kind of the production and consumption agendas, and government have to respond to that through a white paper within 6 months. I think there's a nervousness that government could just ignore it, but I think with civil society behind and pushing for that, let's see what the recommendations come out next week, ?
Yeah, because it could actually be very exciting, Mark, couldn't it? Especially,
I think so. It's needed. We really need that integrated approach across government departments, and food is at the heart of many of those social sustainability, health challenges we confront as a nation, and we need to draw those links in between nutrition, health, and sustainability. I'm more optimistic this time than I have been over the past 10 years. We'll see what government, that's the big question mark. Will government ignore it or really do something slightly different this time with it?
And what's very interesting, Mark, is the 6 months. 6 months for a white paper to go through our governmental system in the UK is very unusual. Normally it's 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. So it would look like there's an indication there from government to already act on what Mr. Dimbleby is going to come through. So perhaps our conversation for the last 50 minutes is going to further accelerate that, hopefully, if Mr. Dimbleby's watching. Everyone, I always feel that people listening or watching these, they need to come away with 3, 4, 5 things that they've really picked up. So I'm just going to challenge all of you. What are the 3 or 4 things that you would love to see in the respects of this subject of agricultural waste? How we can minimize it, how we can create a change for the future, how it can be beneficial, not just for the UK, but for perhaps other countries to learn from us. How can we create this change? What are the 3 or 4 things that you would love to see if you had the proverbial magic wand? And Jenny, I'm going to pick on you first. So what do you think?
Great. Well, I mean, it's clear. My big thing that I'm so passionate about is just getting this value for food back to the consumer. Like, people are really valuing food. And I think, Max, when you talk about the monster drink compared to an apple, or why aren't people valuing this fresh produce? I think a lot of it is the educational point of view as well. I mean, you get a flyer through the door for a Domino's pizza. It's £20. You think it's a great deal. An organic chicken is £20, and people think it's incredibly expensive. And that sort of shift in somebody's mindset needs to change, of this value of food. Food is natural, it comes from the ground. And so that, my educational point would be key. And then the other side is is really trying to get people to actually buy wonky fruit and veg that comes straight out of the ground in all shapes and sizes. A manufacturer can't go through a machine to be processed into a meal. So in your homes, like, take the time to process something that is a strange shape or color, and push those strange shapes into the retail chain as a normal thing. Get the big and bulbous ones that can go through a manufacturing site for the manufacturers.
Jenny, well done. I can never get my head around the consumer aspect, that people, especially men, are very happy to drive around in 60, 70, 80,000 pound BMWs, Mercedes, other brands are available. It's all on tick. They all do the same thing. They all go from A to B. You can only do 70 miles an hour on a motorway in the UK. Why not have a cheaper car? Food. Why are you buying expensive food when the likes of fresh produce can do you so much good, and it's actually cheaper? I'll try not to pull that thread, because I'll be here for hours. Martin, if we could give you the proverbial magic wand, as Jenny so eloquently just passed it over to you, what are the 3, 4 changes that you would love to see?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, first, as I say, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but we need to see the global black hole of data on food waste on farms filled. Like, it's not in the food loss index that the FAO measure internationally. Why? Unharvested food needs to be in there, because the indications are, we don't know how much food is wasted on UK farms, but the indications are that more food is wasted there than in catering, retail and manufacturing put together. And actually there's a question in the chat about, isn't household waste more important in the UK? Well, actually there's a stat that's often reeled out that 70% of the UK's food waste happens in the home. But actually, if you read the small print, that's post-farm gate food waste.
Yeah,
so once you factor in farms, it's about a 50-50 split. So they're equally important. So I'd love to see a way that large farms will have to measure their food waste, but we create that in collaboration with the government. So the government provides support and to help farmers do that. So it doesn't become an admin burden. Secondly, I think we need to see supermarkets regulated to be given extended producer responsibility so that they take responsibility for their suppliers. And we need to see, basically we have a position where a lot of producers are overproducing by say 10-20% at the moment so that they can always meet supermarket orders. We need to see things like whole crop purchasing come in so that supermarkets take responsibility for that. And finally, I'd like to see things like best before dates changed. I'd like to see a real shift from supermarkets educating consumers and blaming them and asking consumers what they need from retailers to help them waste less. So, be that selling smaller produce sizes, be that rather than you having to buy a bag of 6 apples, you can have them sold loose so you can just buy what you need, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Martin, Jenny, what a masterclass we're receiving here. I can see Marcus scribbling this all down for his own personal agenda. Rightly so. Amy, come on. Martin's now passed over the proverbial magic wand to your good self. What changes would you like to see, please?
I think Jenny and Martin have said quite a bit about the industrial side and the agricultural side, but from public health nutritionist, someone who works with consumers and individuals and families, I guess this idea of being able to wipe the slate clean, get rid of all the brainwashing that people have had when it comes to food and the meaning of food and different brands, and having a download somehow of this connection to the environment and understanding where food comes from and what it does for us. Really, exactly what Jenny said, that increasing the value of food and what nature provides.
Yeah. Amy, thank you. Mark, we've learned so much in this last 55 minutes. Go on, conclude for us with those learnings that we've learned from Jenny, from Amy and Martin. What are your thoughts? Mark, what would you like to see? Can you encapsulate everything for us, please?
I don't know if I can encapsulate everything, but obviously what I've heard is, I think, valuing food and for me it is about reconnecting people with food, which will hopefully generate a culture of value and appreciation of food, and therefore will, through consumer behavior change, reduce food loss. So that's come out quite clearly. I think measuring what matters, Martin, is absolutely right. With 2021, 2022, and we still don't know how much food is wasted on farm. Why is that? Much more focus has got to go into that. And perhaps the third and final one from me is I think we need to move away from kind of linear, what I would call linear food systems, towards more circular food systems. So I would like to see governments take much more responsibility and much more focus around moving towards more circular economies. Hopefully that will be a recommendation in the National Food Strategy, and governments, putting policies and practices in place to support that.
Well said. Jenny, a contact is just WhatsApp. Could Jenny wave some of her product at the screen so we can see the brand? Jenny, can you run off and get some of your product? Oh, it's the challenge. Martin, how can we get in contact with you? How can we? Go on, Jenny, you got to go and find some.
Okay, I'm fine.
Go. Oh, that's your challenge. Martin, how can we find out more about you and yourselves? Feedback Global, please. How can we get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could put my email in the chat now. People are very welcome to get in touch if they'd like to find out more about, but it's feedbackglobal.org if you want to find out more about our organisation. I'll put my email in the chat and would love to hear from people, particularly if you'd like to support mandatory reporting on farms, but especially if you have any ideas for how we could do that in a just way that helps farmers, as we don't want this to become an admin burden. We want it to be a helpful thing.
Excellent. And someone's just WhatsApped me to say they love you, Martin. You're doing so much good. Keep it up. Well done. And Jenny, we've got to show off your products. Here we go. Oh,
here we go.
Look at that. Ruby's in the rubble. Isn't that beautiful? That gorgeous branding. And so where can we buy that, please? Just remind us of your resale outlets.
You can buy it on, this is great for me, my website, on Ocado, Morrison's, Waitrose, Amazon, and hopefully in a pub near you.
Excellent. WhatsApp, can she show them off again? Off you go. Go on, Jenny.
Again?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're creating an audience here. We'll just spotlight you. Look at that. And I'm going to go out and buy them today, but I just tell us honestly, are they amazing? Are they beautiful?
I'm completely obsessed with them. So yeah, I'd love to be challenged if anyone else is not. Try and give them a go.
What would you recommend that we have your tomato sauce on, please?
The tomato ketchup we've taken 1.5 years to develop,
wow,
so that it tastes like what you expect from a ketchup, to take on the nation's favorite. It's better for you, better for the planet. It's got half the amount of sugar in. It's got surplus pears in there. It's absolutely fantastic.
Okay, everyone, we all know where we're going this afternoon. We're going to Waitrose. Other stores are available. So just before we wrap up, we always ask this question: what is your favorite fresh produce? Martin, you go first, please.
Oh God, I wasn't expecting this. The good old-fashioned apple, I think.
Fantastic. Excellent. Amy, what about yourself?
Well, now I'm living in Greece. I can access melons that are grown in Greece. And when I was in the UK, I really tried not to buy them, or as little as possible, because it's not very sustainable. So I have to say right now, while it's summer, any type of melons.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so jealous. And come on, Jenny, what's your favorite fresh produce?
I'm much more of a savory. Aubergine is a huge. I mean, we go crazy for it in our family.
Excellent. And Mark, I don't know. I must have asked you this question before. What's your favourite fresh produce?
Tomato picked fresh from the vine.
There we go. To conclude. Well done, everyone. This has been a fascinating conversation. We've learned so much. And all credit to Amy and Mark, and to the other members of the Healthy and Sustainable Food Group for getting Martin and Jenny. Just been amazing. Let's see what happens in the next couple of months with everything that's going on. It does feel like we are on a positive track to change, with some of those evil people out there, but with people with so much passion and energy and stamina and perseverance, with the likes of Martin, Amy, Jenny and Mark. I think we're in good hands. Everyone, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll see you next week when we perhaps won the football, but let's see what happens. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Well done, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.